Hello! Today we're going to learn how to multiply and divide fractions. Alright, so our objectives of this presentation, we're going to learn how to multiply and divide fractions by whole numbers, mixed numbers, and of course other fractions. Multiplying fractions. So the first step is to turn any mixed number and whole number into other fractions and make sure that they are in their simplest form. Step 2, we're going to multiply across the denominator with the denominator and the numerator with the numerator. And then finally, step 3, we're going to simplify our final answer. So with whole numbers and mixed numbers, we need to make sure that we rewrite them as fractions to make it easier for us. So when we have a whole number, we're going to rewrite the number as a fraction over 1. So just like this picture right here, our whole number is 4, and we're just going to write it over 1. And then when we have mixed numbers, we're going to rewrite as a fraction by multiplying the whole number by the denominator and then adding it to the numerator. So here you have 4 times 2, and then we're going to add that to 3. And then we're going to keep 4 the same when we rewrite our fraction. So 4 times 2 plus 3 equals 11, and then we're just going to keep the 4, and that's our new fraction. Alright, so here's an example, and as you can see, these two fractions that we're multiplying together are already in our simplest form, so we're just going to multiply across. So 3 times 6 equals 18, and then 5 times 7 equals 35, and then this final answer right here is simplified as well. Okay, so here's a quick video, another example.
We're asked to multiply 5 6 times 2/3 and then simplify our answer. So let's just multiply these two numbers. So we have 5 over 6 times 2 over 3. Now when you're multiplying fractions, it's actually a pretty straightforward process. You just multiply the new numerator, the numerator of the product, is just the product of the two numerators, or your new top number is the product of the other two top numbers. So our new the numerator in our product is just 5 times 2. So it's equal to 5 times 2 over 6 times 3 over 6 times 3, which is equal to 5 times 2 is 10, and 6 times 3 is 18. So it's equal to 10/18. And you could view this as either 2/3 of 5/6 or 5/6 of 2/3, depending on how you want to think about it. And this is a right answer. It is 10/18. But when you look at these two numbers, you might immediately see that they share some common factors. They're both divisible by 2. So if we wanted in lowest terms, we want to divide them both by 2. So divide 10 by 2, divide 18 by 2, and you get 10 divided by 2 is 5, 18 divided by 2 is 9. Now, you could have essentially done this step earlier on. You could have done it actually before we did the multiplication. You could have done it over here. You could have said, well, I have a 2 in the numerator and I have something divisible by 2 in the denominator. So let me divide the numerator by 2, and this becomes a 1. Let me divide the denominator by 2, and this becomes a 3. And then you have 5 times 1 is 5, and 3 times 3 is 9. So it's really the same thing we did right here. We just did it before we actually took the product. You could actually do it right here. So if you did it right over here, you'd say, well, look, these are eventually going to, 6 times 3 is eventually going to be the denominator. 5 times 2 is eventually going to be the numerator. So let's divide the numerator by 2. So this will become a 1. Let's divide the denominator by 2. This is divisible by 2, so that'll become a 3. And it'll become 5 times 1 is 5, and 3 times 3 is 9. So either way you do it, it'll work. If you do it this way, you get to see the things factored out a little bit more, so it's usually easier to recognize what's divisible by what. Or you could do it at the end and put things in lowest terms.
Okay, so the cool little trick he was doing by factoring or dividing by 2 before multiplying across, that is also known as cross-canceling. We will get to that at a later date, but just so you know, that is an easier way of multiplying fractions. Alright, dividing fractions. Okay, so step one, just like multiplying fractions, we need to simplify the fractions. That's like making whole numbers into fractions and mixed numbers into fractions. Then step two, we're going to keep the first fraction the same. We're going to change the division sign into a multiplication sign, and then we're going to flip the second fraction upside down. Then, finally, we're just going to multiply across and simplify. Keep, change, flip. Okay, so this is a cool little trick when you divide fractions. It makes your life a whole lot easier. So we're going to keep the first fraction. We're going to change the division the division sign into a multiplication sign, and then we're going to flip our second fraction. So we have 2/8, we're going to flip it and make it 8/2. And this new number that we just made, this is called the reciprocal of this fraction, and then we're going to multiply across. So example, we're going to keep the first fraction the same, 3/4. We're going to change this sign into a multiplication sign, and then we're going to flip 1/6 and make it 6/1, and then we're going to multiply across, so 3 times 6 is 18, 4 times 1 is 4, and we're going to simplify it, so we have 4 and 2/4, and we're going to we can actually simplify this a little bit more and make that a half, so it's actually 4 1/2. Alright, so here's another video, and this is the last slide I have for you. Just another example on dividing fractions.
So let's calculate what 2/5 divided by 7/3 is. And I encourage you to pause this video and try to calculate this on your own. Well, we just have to remind ourselves that this is going to be the exact same thing as 2/5 times the reciprocal of 7/3, which is 3/7, And then multiplying two fractions is pretty straightforward. This is just going to be equal to the product of the numerators. So 2 times 3 over the product of the denominators, over 5 times 7. 5 times 7, trying to keep the colors consistent. 5 times 7, which of course is going to be equal to 2 times 3 is equal to 6, and 5 times 7, I'll do this in a new color. Let's see, I haven't used this shade of blue yet. 5 times 7, of course, is equal to 35. So this is equal to 6/35.
Alright, thank you for watching.